welcome to our second Farmer Grant Q&A session. I am Northeast SARE Communication Specialist Vandergeck. I use they, them pronouns. I am coming to you from Bethel, Vermont. We are so excited to have you here today to talk about the 2025 Farmer Grant Program and your proposals. We have some Northeast SARE staff here who we're going to introduce ourselves while I get a welcome poll going here. And if you can take a second to complete that, that's super helpful for us. And then we're going to move into a quick presentation on the Farmer Grant Program from our Farmer Grant Administrator, Candice Huber. And then we're going to move into a questions and answer session, and we try to give as much space as possible for that, and really encourage people to feel free to ask follow-up questions and to ask follow-up questions on other people's questions. And we really use this as an opportunity to build community understanding and around this program and how to be successful working with Northeast SARE overall. So once again, welcome to this session. I'm going to get a poll here going in just a moment. The poll does have questions that you have today on it, but also feel free to drop those in the chat or raise your hand with those because we do get going pretty quickly and I don't want anyone to miss an opportunity. So yeah, with that, take it away, Candice. Go on and let's introduce ourselves.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Candice Huber. I manage the Farmer Grant and Partnership Grant programs, and I'll be answering hopefully all your questions today.
Hey folks, my name's Emma. I use she, her pronouns. I work for Northeast SARE, and I'm here as a note taker. So I'm going to take notes on all of the questions that are asked today, as well as the answers, and then we'll post those anonymously on our website so that if you have questions you want to refer back to, or if you're only able to attend this session and not all four, you'll be able to see what else was discussed.
Vander, are there any other housekeeping issues, or should I jump right in?
I think we're good. I mean, I really want to just celebrate Emma for all the hard work that she does getting that list together. If you've seen our the Q&A session questions on the website, it's awesome to see how the work she does organizing them. So just a quick celebration of Emma. And yeah, take it away, Candice.
All right. Yes, thank you both for all your help with all of this. That being said, as Vander said, you can type your questions as we go along into the chat, or you can raise your hand or jump right in. I'll have Vander and Emma help me keep track of the chat. Sometimes the questions come so fast, it's hard to, sometimes easy to skip one by accident. But just also so you know that this is being recorded and the recording will be made available. And if you have a question about something, an idea you have or something, and you're just not comfortable sharing it in this forum because, you know, it's an idea that you don't want anybody else to have at the moment or hear about yet, you can feel free to contact me directly at any time to discuss your question. So with that being said, as you all know, we're currently accepting proposals for the Farmer Grant Program until November 12th. And I'm going to share just a few of the basics about the Farmer Grant Program before we jump into the questions. This kind of seems to help people get their questions flowing. And I won't take too long though, so that we have plenty of time for questions. I'm going to share my screen here. And there we go. So if there are no specific questions, aspects of the proposal process, but we'll start with this. SARE stands for Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education, and and it's a federally funded program through the USA National Institute of Agriculture. So our region are these states, these 12 states, plus out of 6 competitive programs that we offer. So the first criteria is that you need to be working in this region, this Northeast region of the United States. Now, we do have another program called the Partnership Grant Program. It's very similar, but the applicant is not the farmer. It's someone who works with farmers. So if you're listening and you're not a farmer, but you want to work with one, then the partnership program would be the one for you. And the deadline for that program is next April. There are a lot of similarities in the programs, so all this information will still be helpful, but you can find out more about the Partnership Grant Program specifically on our website. So these are the basics of the Farmer Grant Program. Farmer grants are for commercial producers who have an innovative idea they want to test. The projects should seek new knowledge that other farmers can use and address questions that improve the sustainability of farms. A technical advisor must be involved. The maximum amount of funds you can request is $30,000, and you'll need to put together a detailed, realistic budget. And it's important to note that funds are paid on a reimbursement basis, so you or your farm need to be able to manage the expenses. Projects typically run from 1 to 3 years. Applicants may only submit one proposal per year per program. And the proposal deadline is November 12th, 2024 at 5 p.m. And proposals are submitted online. And you can find detailed instructions for applying in our call for proposals online at northeastsare.org/farmergrants. Now, the main goal of the program is to help other farmers in the region. So for your proposal to be competitive, you want to demonstrate that your project will benefit sustainable agriculture. And you can look at our outcome statement to help you address that. Our outcome statement is: Northeast agricultural communities honor the holistic connection among land, water, air, and all living beings. Agriculture in the Northeast is accessible, sustainable, and just, addressing historic and current inequities so all farmers and farm employees can steward resources to ensure sustainability, resilience, economic viability, and a high quality of life. So those are the basics of farmer grants. So what I'd like to do at this point is see if anybody has any questions so far. Get out of here and stop sharing. Oh, audio is breaking up. Can you guys hear me? Emma, yeah, okay. Yeah, what is classified as a technical advisor? That's a great question. So a technical advisor is somebody who will be there to help support you throughout your grants. And it should be somebody who is experienced in the topic of your project or an aspect of your project. And it could be anybody who has that experience. It could be an extension educator, a university researcher, a private consultant, a veterinarian, NRCS or other government staff, nonprofit or for-profit ag service providers, or any other technical expert, including another farmer. So really anybody who has the experience and knowledge in your topic area. We do have a guide on our website that describes their role. And if the very first thing you really should do, Vander just popped that into the chat. The very first thing that you should do when you have your idea for a project and you're going to start working on a proposal is to find a technical advisor. Let's get somebody on board who can help you design your project, can review your proposal, answer any questions you have, maybe can assist with outreach, and somebody who would throughout your project be able to help you troubleshoot or answer questions when you're at a crossroads. So it's really important to have somebody who you feel comfortable working with and who has the experience that you need to help you be successful with your project. Any other questions about the technical advisor at the moment? Now I see from Victoria, I'm not sure if the farm I'm working for is eligible. The landowners just took over the farm this year, but the farmer that was there for the past 30 years was selling hay and beef. We're not currently selling anything, but are using cover crops and have traded grain hay with local farmers. Okay, so eligibility is usually a big question. And to be eligible for a farmer grant, as I said, you need to be a commercial producer. And we use the definition of a farm from the USDA, which is any place from which $1,000 or more of agricultural products were produced and sold, or normally would have been sold during the census year. And that normally would have been sold part is important because the USDA recognizes that some farms experience low sales in a particular year due to bad weather, disease, changes in marketing strategies, or any other factors. On our website, we do have a document called Definition of a Farm, and it does have examples. It explains it further, and it provides examples of what qualifies and what does not. Now, you do not need to show a profit, and we don't require any evidence or information about your tax status or anything. But when you are submitting your application, you're confirming, you're signing off that you, in fact, do meet the definition of a farm. And so you can be a farm owner or a farm employee. Now, Victoria, I'm not really sure of your situation, but as the farmer, you need to either own the farm or be an employee, but the farm itself needs to be in production and commercially active. And I'm not sure if it sounds like you are. We do honor bartering and the donations of foods, but you do have to be able to say, have tallied up, we donated such and such amount to their, in this past year. So you do need that prior year of producing $1,000 or of worth of agricultural products from your farm. Victoria, is that answer your question, or I'm not sure how to.
It sounds like it does.
Yeah, okay. What is the scope for projects that focus on education, specifically creating educational video content around specific agroecology? Those are certainly eligible. We do fund a lot of projects that are purely educational and that do create videos as part of that. So just keep in mind what you want to be doing is creating. Your results should be able to help farmers in the Northeast region. So you just want to make a case for how what you're going to be doing is going to have an impact on farmers, and you want to do it as a farmer, being the one applying and running the project. $1,000 or $2,500? No, it's $1,000, Ryan. I don't know where the 2,500 could have come from, but things are always changing around. So I hope if you do see it, let me know and we'll address that. But it is $1,000. My farmer wants to apply to try out a new potential species for production. Yes, that is appropriate for this grant. That's a pretty common. Variety trials are a common topic for farmer grants, and we do have a document that's called How to Conduct Research on Your Farm. And so if you have any questions about how do you go about doing something like that, you could look at that document and it'll walk you through how to, design the experiment, how to figure out your budget and all that. So I highly recommend that. Maybe Emma or Ben, you could pop that into the chat. What is the range of grants for length of time and budget annually? So the length of time is from 1 to 3 years, typically. Sometimes they're maybe a little bit shorter, but usually people need a full growing season. And 3 years is the maximum that the project can be because of our limitations on the funds that we receive from the USDA. We can't extend it longer than 3 years. Annually, the annual budget, we don't worry about annual, like you could spend so the grants you can request up to $30,000 and you can use it for any part of the project. If it all needs to be used in the first part of the project, that's fine, with the caveat that 20% of the award amount is held back until the very end of the project when your final report has been submitted and approved. So annually, it's just all based on the design of your project. So it just needs to be thousands worth of food, even if we donate it all to the. Yes, if you donated the food, that is fine, but you do have to have records of those donations. Can we purchase equipment for processing the said variety that we are researching? Yes, you can. Now, there are some limitations on equipment. So, I have this written out because it does get a little complicated, but equipment that is needed for the project is definitely an allowable expense. However, it needs to be only necessary for the project and not something that you would normally use for your current operation. So if the equipment is needed for the project and it will have no use after the project, then it would be eligible at 100%. However, if it's a piece of equipment that would have use on your farm or other farms after the project, you would only be allowed to request a prorated amount based on its useful life. So, as an example, if you needed a microscope for your project, but didn't have one, wouldn't use it for anything else, the microscope would be considered to have a useful life of 10 years. It costs $1,600. If your project is a 2-year project, SARE would pay 20% of the cost, or $320. Now, we do prefer that you rent equipment. So if that is feasible, that's usually the best way to go. But we understand that that's not always even a possibility. So it could be funded fully, it could be funded on a prorated basis, or if it's something that you would normally need in your regular operations, we would not fund that at all. Are there specific educational gaps amongst farmers in the Northeast that we might want to tackle via educational resources? Well, that's a big question, and that's something that you would need to research based on the topic that you're interested in. Reviewers will want to see that work. So part of your proposal is to demonstrate the need for your project. So that would mean, you would need to do a little research and a needs assessment on that educational gap. You could say, we've looked into such and such, and we found that, farmers are letting us know that they just don't know enough about processing rabbits or whatever, and I don't know, that's a good one, but and so you can say like how you came to that conclusion, and that would be really helpful for your proposal, because reviewers do want to see that there's a demonstrated need for the work. For tree crops research, I might need more than 3 years. Can I get successive grants? I'm already 5 years in on the breeding research. How can that be applied? Okay, so you can get successive grants, but you have to apply for them, and there's no guarantee that you will get them. So if you submit a proposal for a project that is really not going to have any outcomes unless you can get further grants, that will not be as competitive as other proposals, because like I said, there's no guarantee that you would get the successive grants, which is one of our unfortunate limitations. And again, it goes back to the fact that we're tied to our prime award from the USDA. So we only have a certain amount of time that these funds are available. but you say already 5 years in on the breeding research. So you can use that, describe all of that, and then, you know, ask for the funding for continuing that research and being able to use that to be able to get to your outcome that you're looking for. There are, short-term objectives that could be accomplished if they will have some benefit to other farmers in the short term. That would be, you know, totally allowable and that would be competitive, but you'd need to make the case that, you know, regardless of whether you were able to continue with the work or not after this particular project, that you could come up with valuable information. Because if it is something that's, you know, an issue, a problem that farmers really want to be solved, then furthering knowledge in an area can often be a really valuable outcome. Let's see. Is it $30,000 per year for 3 years or $30,000 over 3 years? $30,000 over 3 years. So whether your project is 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, $30,000 is the max. Thanks. Yeah, Emma, you answered that. Sorry. Going back to the trying out a new potential species for production, would that be through the grant like they are the farmer, or would that apply more to the other grant since it would be through the farmer? And I'm guessing they are not the farmer from how this is worded. My farmer wants to apply to try out a new potential species for production. Yes, so the farmer, that is a good point. Thank you for bringing that up. The farmer, I'm not sure who asked this question, but when you say my farmer, I'm assuming they're an employee. And as an employee, they can apply for the grant and be the one to design the experiment, run the experiment, but the funding would go through the farm. So as an organization, so that case would require a grant authorization form where the applicant, the project leader would be the employee, and the grant authorization form would have to have a signature from that farmer employee plus the farm owner or the institution that owns the farm, authorizing that project can be done and that you will take financial responsibility for it.
Well, for clarification on that one, I'm an extension agent and I'm watching this for a farmer.
Great. My farmer. Perfect. Yep. Yeah. So, yep. So that farmer could do the application through their own farm, and you could be the technical advisor, hopefully, and share all this with them and help them write the proposal and design the project. Thank you. Do you have info existing needs assessments that have been done on it? Probably on exit that have been done recently. Let's see. I can't think of any.
I'm dropping a response to that. So what I've done is I've searched our projects.sare.org database, which is a great resource for folks who are wanting to look at previous projects, and it's also where you're going to be submitting your proposal. And I've just searched for needs assessment, and there are a couple of examples of other projects that have discussed needs assessments in our region. So that could give you an idea of where that stands in the overall the sphere of our work. But yeah, I think Candice was just saying that we don't have a specific one conducted internally because there's just such a wide range of topics and commodities across the region. It would be really difficult to create a specific summary. We also have state-based summaries that kind of can give an idea of that as well. I'll drop a link in for. Very specific.
Thank you, Ben.
Pardon the interruption.
No, that was perfect. Like you said, like they said, we do have a database that has all of our projects in there, and there's a lot of information in there, and you can search by your topic or maybe a keyword from what you're interested in and find other projects and maybe get ideas or see, just see how things are done. What usually makes submissions stand out? That's a good question too. So reviewers like, well, first of all, the topic. Reviewers like to see a topic where there's a strong need for it, and that will have an impact on a large number of farmers in the Northeast. And when I say have an impact, you don't necessarily have to, your project doesn't have to be, for instance, your hypothesis doesn't have to be correct for it to be successful. The success comes from going through the process of the project and learning whether it works or not. So even if it doesn't work, it's still really helpful information and can have a big impact on farmers. Now, what other things that make the submission stand out are typically a well thought out proposal, which means thinking out from what is the issue you want to address and how are you going to address it? Meaning specifically the steps you're going to take to do your project. So be very clear about what your objectives are for the project. And then for each objective, you want to really lay out your methods. And that's the more clear you are about that, how you're doing that, one, it'll just be easier for you to complete the project because it's more like having, then you just basically cookbook it. But it also lets reviewers know that you've really thought it through, and it helps them have confidence that you'll be able to complete the project. They also like to see outreach where the results will be shared with farmers in your area or in your area topic. Are there any proof of concept grant opportunities before next summer? Not particularly. I'm not sure. Sometimes a proof of concept can be a project. For instance, the farmer grant, you could be apply for a proof of concept, but it depends on the project. And I'm just not, I would need to talk to you a little bit more, Ed, if you want at some point about what you're thinking of. We have several farmers that are interested to work with us as a technical advisor to understand the comparative soil health and emissions analysis of their operations. Does this fit, and is it possible? How would multiple producers be involved? All right, so Eric, I'm assuming you're a farmer and there are other farmers who want to work with you to do this project. So if they are experts in soil health and emissions analysis, they could be technical advisors. But if they just want to, if you want to work with them, they can just be collaborators. They don't have to be essentially technical advisors. So you could be running the project and involving these other farmers. They can get paid off your project and you can get paid off your project. We haven't touched on budget stuff at all, but it's really important. We really like to see farmers get paid for their work, and they could be collaborators, and you could be running the project, doing tests on their farms as well as your own, and then looking at all the results and helping each other figure out how your best management practices from there. But it would be good to have one technical advisor who has expertise in soil health and emissions in order to help address any questions that you have as you go along. Look at your design experiment and make sure it will get you where you want to go. But
thank you for that. So yeah, we are coming in as the technical advisor, or I'm on this call to better understand as the technical advisor. But it does sound like we could have multiple farmers as collaborators as a part of that. I just didn't know how it would work with who would take. One would probably take the lead,
right?
And then
one
the
of those
others would be
farmers would need
collaborators.
to take the lead, and they would need to be the one who submits the proposal, and they would need to be the one to have all the finances come in through,
Yep.
come through their farm. So
Yeah.
they'd have to pay all the bills and submit for reimbursements. And be that person, that's who we would be contracting with. Now, Eric, I'm not sure where you work, but from what I'm hearing, it sounds like this might be more appropriate for a partnership grant where an agricultural service provider works with a farmer or partners with farmer or
Okay.
farmers to do a project. So if that's something that would work better, I mean, I'm just thinking the financial piece sometimes for a farm can be quite a burden. So
Got it. Thank you. Yeah, I can
yeah.
follow up more. Thanks.
Yep. NRCS designed a plan to irrigate our pastures that it ultimately help us significantly reduce to eliminate hay purchase. This would require us to spend money on a well and a traveling gun. Are these costs this grant would help with? Let's see, to irrigate your pastures. So not just outright. We wouldn't fund that. We wouldn't fund those pieces of equipment just outright. If you have something about the irrigation that you want to test, like does one work better than the other kind of situation, but it sounds like NRCS has designed this all for you, and those are what we would call probably capital expenses, which are something that we would not cover. So it would need to be a part of in order for us to cover either the whole or a prorated amount for those items, it would need to be something that you're investigating as part of a research project, and that for SARE. And if that's not clear, I can expand on that more.
Quick follow-up on that, Candice, because I can see that it's in reference to the hay production for eliminating the hay purchases. So like in this specific example, if you were looking at like tracking the cost of your previous hay purchases versus how it is after using their using the well with a traveling gun, and so creating a data model that shows how the NRCS plan works could potentially be a direction for it. But it is important to remember that NRCS focuses on their primary targets are soil and water quality, environmental quality, whereas our primary focus for our grants is to serve farmers. So you would want to make sure, if you were going to be pursuing that idea, that you were making it really clear how the SARE component of your work was going to help farmers in your area better, eliminate significantly reduce their hay purchases. So just want to stress that there is a bit of a difference between the way that the two organizations view our outcomes. For Sarah, it was good. Hi.
Thanks, Vander. Yeah, so back to Julia, I see if I'm a landowner looking to work with our farmer, it sounds like I'd need to work with him because I don't currently have a registered farm business. So it sounds like, okay, so if you're the landowner but you have a farmer, I'm not sure, is that farmer an employee of yours? That would be my question. And if you don't currently have a registered farm business, yes, you're correct in that you could not apply for a farmer grant. If the farmer has another farm that you want to work on a project with, then you could do that. That farmer again would be the one who would need to apply, and you could be a collaborator or some other role in the project. But so when you say our farmer, if you do not have a commercial farm at this point, then they would not be able to apply either if they're only an employee for you. I'm not sure if I'm making that clear, but the applicant needs to be a farmer or a farm employee on a commercial farm based on the USDA definition of a farm. And again, happy to talk to you more about that offline and later if you prefer. Do you fund all or nothing of the total requested, or do you sometimes do partial funding? Well, you know, $30,000 is actually not a lot of money when you start putting together your budget. And so we typically wouldn't say, if there's a large piece of equipment that you ask for and we love the project, the reviewers love the project, but we can't pay for that piece of equipment, and there's a very rare chance that we would do partial funding. Sometimes what we will do is instead say, you have, we want to award your project. We're not going to be able to pay for this, but are there other expenses that you haven't included? For instance, sometimes farmers don't pay themselves. So we would reallocate the funds as best we could to be able to give you the full award amount. But yeah, so partial funding usually doesn't happen, but it could in a rare case if it seemed really like the logical thing to do. We are at the end of a 3-year project right now. Can we be recouped for previous costs plus the costs associated with the conclusion of the experiment? No. All of your anything that you would like to be reimbursed for has to be expensed after the award date, which would be March 1st, 2025. So we can't pay for any expenses previous to that. Let's see. Is paying farmhands to care for a new species of fruit trees for us and to help record data considered an eligible cost? Yes, absolutely. You can pay your farmhands for any work that they would do outside of your normal operation. So if it's any sort of data collection or extra work that's required to be for the project, absolutely. You can put that in your budget, and that's the same for you as well, as the farmer. Can a child be the technical provider for the parents who are the farm owner? So I'll say, can a child be the technical advisor for the parents who are the farm owner? So typically we don't like for family members or people in the same or not in the same organization, but in the same on the same farm to be the technical advisor, because it's not allowed completely. So you can do that, you can request that, but reviewers like to see technical advisors that will bring outside perspective to the project. So it's not really recommended, but it's not, it wouldn't make you ineligible either. With a $1,000 minimum in income, you are covering a wide range of farmers. What are some tips to help folks focus the scope of their projects? Not really sure, Francisco, how what you're asking there. It sounds like you're saying this project is open to farmers who may have a lot of diversity in their operations. But what we actually have a video here. Vander, maybe you could pop in the video about how to identify a potential project on your farm. And that's a really good thing to look at, because what you want to do is so if you're a farmer and you have a project in mind, if you have something in mind, like that's been, man, I wish I could just find a better way to store those tomatoes or something like that. That's how you should develop your project. So you want to look at where you see needs to improve your operation, to improve things for the environment, to improve your quality of life. Those anything that can help make your farm or farming more sustainable. That's how you want to focus in on what you want to do your project about. I hope that answers your question. Let's see. But yes, that video is great, and just to give you a little idea of how to just get started. What about farmers working for a nonprofit on a nonprofit farm property? Well, farmers who work for a nonprofit are eligible as just like farm employees. And what you would do is you would be the project leader and apply for the grant. And you, again, in this case, you would need to provide a grant authorization form where the nonprofit organization authorized official would need to also sign it. And they would be signing off on allowing you to do the project on the farm, as well as taking the fiscal responsibility. Yeah, and for any of these, if you want to meet with me sometime to discuss one of your questions, please email me. I think it's already been given, but we'll give this again, my email, and we'll set up a time to have a phone conversation or just talk by email, whatever works best for you. Are you saying that I can charge for my time on the research project as well as pay others? Yes, absolutely. How do you submit payment for reimbursement for labor? Does it have to be through a payroll company? No, it doesn't have to be through a payroll company. If you just need to keep records of the hours worked. If it's for yourself, if you are paying an employee, then you'll have those records as well. So you definitely want to keep records of it all and submit them with your reimbursement. But I know as a farmer, maybe you're not writing yourself specifically a check, or maybe you would. That might be a good way to have a good record of it. But definitely have a record of the hours you've spent on the project and how much you would pay for that. Let's see. Can the child, okay, where do you, I thought that I saw in the RFP that the TA explicitly can't be related to the farmer, where it says they should not be close friends or family members. Yes. Yep. The keyword there is should. So it wouldn't make you ineligible, but it's really not advised. Okay, great. Thanks, Emma, for I think I may have reached the bottom of the questions. Are there any other questions at the moment? Anybody want to raise a hand or go through the chat? Anything that I didn't address enough? If not, I'd be happy to talk a little bit more about a couple of things here. Oh, Andy?
Yes, thank you. It's Andy.
Sorry.
Thank you so much for all the helpful information. I just thought of this, so I'm trying to word it as I'm thinking in my brain through it. But I work for a nonprofit. We have a farm. We are going to be transferring locations to a different piece of land. It's still within the same community. It's still community based. Nothing's changing there, but that's been in progress. And so what I don't know is how the production will look when we're in between, like when we're in that moving process. I don't see any reason why we would be having zero production, but let's just say in, Magic Land that happens, like for 1 year in the middle of a multi-year grant. How is is that problematic if there's a good explanation for it and the other 2 years make up for it, or like, if, I don't know if that makes sense as an example.
So are you worried about your status of being a commercial farmer during that
Yeah,
time, or
like,
being an eligible farmer?
yeah, just if there is an award and for some reason the production is disrupted by that
Mhm.
for unforeseen circumstances, how would that affect the award status? Would there have to be like, a termination of that contract, or,
Well, so it really depends on what your project is. If your project is something that that wouldn't be affected by that, not an issue. It's a non-issue. It's not even like, we wouldn't worry about it all. If it's something like, we're going to be growing these perennials, starting them in one place, but might get disrupted, and when we move to the next place, that could be an issue. But I would imagine when you're designing your proposal and your experiment that you would be considering all that. So, but we would not terminate your contract for any reason like that. If you feel comfortable when you submit the proposal that you will be able to complete the project that you're requesting funding for, then submit. And if any unforeseen challenges come up, we'll work with them as best we can.
Okay, thank you
And
for clarifying.
yeah. Let's see, a few more questions now again. Is there an approved commodities list? There is a commodities list in our, when you go to submit your proposal, you will check off your commodities and you'll see all the commodities, and there are a lot of them. As far as approved commodities, the only one that I think of at the moment that is not approved is cannabis being grown for THC. I know that's not an eligible commodity at the moment. Grown for like under, I think it's, I forget, 0.03, whatever the content is. If it's grown for hemp or CBD, it is allowable. But I don't know of anything off the top of my head that's not otherwise. Is the technical advisor paid? Yes, the technical advisor can be paid. So you can include the technical advisor in your budget for work that will be done during the project. It cannot be for work in preparing the proposal. So when you're contacting them to get help with designing the project or asking them to review your proposal, we can't pay for that because that would be expenses for work done before the award date of March 1st, 2025. But you can put them into the budget as a collaborator, or which would be like under consultants and services in that category of the budget. And whatever their going rate would be, however they would like to be compensated. Sometimes people just want travel, or sometimes they'll have a flat fee, or you may have to estimate how many hours they'll be putting into the grant. And the technical advisor will need to, I neglected to say this earlier, the technical advisor will need to submit a letter of commitment, which explains their experience and qualifications to be the technical advisor, as well as their understanding of their role in the project. So what they're committing to do to help you with your project. So if they're going to be you're going to have them in the budget, you'll want to make sure that they do, that both you and the technical advisor explain in the proposal what work exactly they'll be doing. Yes, so Vander shared, I will be launching a What Did You Learn Today poll, and that's already gone through. In the past, for folks that have created video conference, is there a preference to where the content is hosted? There's not a preference, but we like for it to be someplace that can be that's as permanent as possible. So we do have a YouTube channel that we can post on ours. Vander, you might be the person more to address that. I don't want to misspeak. But you can use an independent website for all products, including videos. We do require that Northeast SARE be acknowledged for any if you're doing anything about work on your project that SARE is funding, we do need to see a Northeast SARE acknowledgement on that, and that's we would provide you with all that information. But Vander, do you have anything further to say about the hosting the video?
No, that summed it up really well. Yeah, we the permanence is the biggest thing, because we really like the projects database and our resources database to be able to point to things that people can use.
Thanks. I see hemp fiber with a question mark, and yes, that's an allowable commodity. Any suggestions as far as organizations that focus on education and outreach to small farmers and home growers, thinking where to identify a technical advisor? Well, I think it really depends on your topic, but extension offices, I'm not sure where you're located, but there's a land grant university in each state with an extension program. There are also organizations like NOFA, Northeast Organic Farmers and Gardeners Association. But I personally would start with extension, because that's really their thing, is to reach out and educate farmers.
Your conservation district as well could be a potential.
All right, let's see. So we've got a few more minutes. I'm just going to post up this timeline here. Share my screen. This has the timeline. Oh, well, that didn't help. I wanted to give you the timeline of what's happening with the projects. And all right. We've got also, if your project is funded, I could go over that too, but so if anybody wants to, I'll do that next. First, this is the farmer grant timeline. The proposal deadline is November 12th at 5 p.m. sharp, and that's driven by our system, our online application system. So don't wait until 3 p.m. to start entering your proposal on the 12th. I highly recommend starting to get it in a few days early. You never know, like you may have a technical glitch, you may have something come up on your end, or I may not be available because from 3 to 5, if there's a lot of people needing assistance, you can't rely on that. So I do highly recommend you get it in earlier than that. Proposals are then reviewed between November and February 2025, and the awards are announced by email usually on or by March 1st. And then the contracts are issued during the month of March. And that will entail, if your project is awarded, it would just entail probably some back and forth just to clarify some budget items and get everything tightened up so that we can have a contract issued to you. And the contract would be between the University of Vermont and your farm. Then I was just going to quickly talk about what happens if you are awarded a grant. You, as the farmer applicant, are considered the project leader and would be the point of contact for all aspects of the award. So the contracting and everything, even though maybe your organization is the one where the finances go through, we always just have you as the point of contact, and you're managing the project. And you want to manage the project according to your plan of work. If you have any changes that come up, you can't do something for some reason, or you need to go a different direction, you can contact me and we can work to see if it's something that how big of a change it would be, and most of the time also you can work with your technical advisor to see how to address the challenge as well. But as long as the goals of your project don't change, there's a lot of room for change in your project. You'll also be managing your budget and then the invoicing too, which again means submitting the expenses to our financial office that get reimbursed. And again, with the budget, if you have a need to, you say, oh, I didn't need that piece of equipment, but instead I need to be able to send my samples out for testing, we can reallocate funds. Again, just contact me, we'll work through it, and you just might need approval for it before it can be done. There are reports due. There's an annual progress report due around January 15th each year, and then the final report is due 30 days after your project end date, and the end date is the contract end date. So you can't have any expenses after that end date that couldn't be reimbursed. And we do, as I mentioned earlier, hold the final 20% of the award until that final report is submitted and approved. Anything else anybody would specifically, I could go on and on with all these different parts of the proposal process, but it's 12:57, so I'm going to open it up to any last questions. And again, we'll be having another Q&A session next Tuesday at noon. So you can come back, ask more questions, or again, you can always contact me directly with questions.